Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Trail Talk Highpointing podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and the highpointers that we're speaking with today are Guy, April, and Santi, all calling from Arkansas. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start off by asking everyone how you all got started in the outdoors.
Actually, we had a goal when we first started out. We were going to visit all 50 states, and we finished that about 2 or 3 years probably ahead of when we should. So we started looking around at what would be good to do after that. Well, to make a long story short, when we were visiting South Dakota, we happened to come on to, I think it's called Black Eagle Peak now.
Black Elk Peak, yeah.
So I talked to the kids at that time were Abril was about 4 or 5 and Santi was about 8, I guess, we're going to be 8. So I said, why don't we just climb this mountain? You know, it had an elevation of about 7,200 feet, something like that. So being an engineer, I kind of looked at it. I thought, just take call 7,200 feet, the right, the vertical side of the right triangle, and calculate the hypotenuse, and you can get a pretty good idea of about how far it is up it. So I did that, and that was it was very flawed thinking, to say the least. But anyway, to make a long story short, we finally got to the top of it, and after that, it's about a year or two later, we were in Hawaii, and again on the island Hawaii, and we climbed Mauna Kea, I think it is. So after that, when I got back home, I was telling somebody about it, and they said, "Why don't you join High Pointers?" And I had never even heard of High Pointers. So anyway, I talked it over with Abril and Santi, and that's pretty much how we got started.
Oh, that's great. And I have to pause a second here because I realized, Abril, I said your name wrong in the introduction.
Oh no, it's okay. I go by April as well, just because my name can be hard to say.
Also,
okay.
Actually,
is it okay if I leave it like that, or do you want me to redo it?
No, you can leave it like that. It's totally fine. All my friends call me April.
I was gonna say real quick, you might hear me mention my sister as Honey. That's just her nickname. So, in case you hear that and you're wondering like, why do you say Honey? That's why.
Well,
no problem.
The short story on that, Abril is Spanish for April, and nobody on my side of the family could pronounce that. So when she was very little, we started calling her Honey. And now if you mention Abril, when you're around my family, they wouldn't know who you were talking about. It's Honey.
Okay, so do you guys have, I noticed the name Santiago and Abril. I used to live in Mexico and I speak Spanish, and I thought, I wonder if they are of Hispanic descent, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, our mom is from Argentina.
Oh, that's really cool. Interesting. Okay, awesome.
Well, they both speak pretty good Spanish and understand it very well.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great. Well, okay, we can continue now into the question. So you joined the High Pointers Club.
We did. We joined in, I think, 2012 or 11. 2012, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And so were all three of you guys high pointing at this point?
We were. Normally what we would do is in the summertime, I had them like 35 days in the summer, and we would just take off and go, and we tried to see as many places as we could, but we always tried to work in a mountain or two when we were doing it. Mm-hmm. It's like Honey has done 40 of the 50 states, and Santi's done 33.
Wow.
And we've seen about every landmark from the 9/11 Memorial to Saguaro National Park in Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So, April and Santi, what are your first memories of being in the outdoors?
Oh, man. Ooh, I would probably say it's probably, we have a ranch, and I guess a farm would be more of the correct term.
Actually,
And that's probably my earliest memory. Just being outdoors, kind of walking around, not really knowing what I'm doing or anything, just kind of exploring as a kid.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have cattle as well, and I remember our dad buying a truck full of bread, and we still do that. And we would play hay bale tag, which we have these hay bales for the cows, and pretty much what it sounds like. We would just play tag, jumping from hay bale to hay bale.
Wow.
these are round hay bales. They're about 5 foot tall. So if you missed your step while you're playing tag, it was very painful.
It sounds like it. Well, that's a really unique upbringing. I don't think I've heard that on the podcast before, but it certainly gets you outside.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's especially nice to have, a place to yourself when you need it time to time. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you know that you were going to want to do all 50 at some point?
I'd probably say no.
Yeah, I'm
Answering
gonna
for the
say
rest
no.
of us.
How old was I on that mountain? I was young.
About four.
I was yeah.
Four, but she
Oh,
weighed about
okay.
30 pounds, and I carried her for 2 miles. But I'm going back to that triangle thing again. When I calculated the hypotenuse, I thought it'd be about a mile and 3/4, 2 miles at the most, and I figured I could do 12 minutes a mile. So I thought we'd be to the top of that peak in about 24 minutes. And that's when I realized mountains when you're climbing them, the trail doesn't always go up. Sometimes it goes back down and then it goes around. So,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, Abril gave out about a mile into that, and I started carrying her. And then Santi, he gave out later on, and he said, "Could you carry me?" So I
I don't
carry.
remember that.
I told Abril, "You're going to have to walk for a while, and I'll carry him." So we, and of course, they didn't know it, but I had taken each of them a bottle of Gatorade, and I had taken myself a Diet Coke. Now, bear in mind, we didn't know much about hiking,
Mm-hmm.
so when I kept asking people, we was meeting coming down, and they kept saying, about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And about the third or fourth person, he said about 15 minutes. I thought the person about 45 minutes ago said about 15 minutes. But anyway, we finally got to the top, and when I got up there, I gave them this Gatorade, and they were drinking, and I opened this Diet Coke. I was going to drink this Diet Coke, and I heard this voice, this wee voice, and I looked over, and here's this little girl in this white dress who was sitting down that we hadn't even noticed. And she said, "Do you mind if I have a drink of that?" I said, "Well," I said, "Sweetheart, aren't your parents? Didn't they bring water?" And she said, "Well," I said, "Where are your parents for that matter?" She said, "Well, they're up here somewhere." So
Oh, gosh.
anyway, I thought about it, and I thought, well, she probably shouldn't be drinking Diet Coke, but if she's thirsty, I handed her the Coke, and she just turned it up and drank all of it.
Oh, no.
And I thought this is going to be a long, long day. But anyway, we finally found her parents, and we stayed there and took some pictures, and then we came back down. And when we got to where it was flat, I said, "You need to stay inside of me because I'm going to start running for that car," because I knew it had water in it.
Yeah.
And I said, just stay close to me. If there's a bear or something, he won't get you. But anyway, before I got to the car, they were both passing me. So anyway, that was our first experience at mountain climbing, and it was that's still my favorite mountain just because of
Mm-hmm.
everything that we went through on it.
So, April and Santi, what were your first high points that you can recall?
The first high point that I can remember, and I mean barely remember, is Hawaii. I was like
Mm-hmm.
7, I think.
You were 7.
I was 7 years old. I remember learning to swim in Hawaii, but as far as climbing, I was so young on so many of these mountains that I don't remember a lot in the beginning.
Sure. What about you, Santi?
I do briefly remember South Dakota. Not too much. I just remember it being super hot. And same with what my sister said. I remember Hawaii super well. That was the first time I felt really small in the world. Like it was just crazy being above the clouds and being able to see the ocean from where you were in the whole island. It was that was a pretty cool experience.
How do you high point? Do you guys all go together?
Well,
Usually, yeah, we go together. My sister and dad have more than me because I can't remember. I was doing something in the summer or
well, I
working
can tell
something,
you
and
were. He had a girlfriend, and he just quit us
oh,
for about a year and a half.
well, never mind. Okay, well that's why they got ahead of me. So,
Okay.
but yeah, we usually do plan them together.
And so, what are some of your favorites? We can start with you, Santi.
I'd probably say Nevada.
Oh, okay. I don't think anyone said that before.
I understand why.
Yeah, well, the reason why, because we went, the first time we went with a larger group, and we couldn't climb it because we got caught in a lightning storm,
Oh,
and
geez.
because the weather up there just changes so rapidly. It was a good day, and we made sure we were good, and then it ended up switching up on us, but yeah, that was pretty scary because we were so high up that you could hear the I guess electrons are what make electricity. I'm not a scientist. I probably should know that though. But yeah, you could just hear this constant like zzz,
Yeah.
like in your ears, and all your hair was sticking up. It was super scary.
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah, well, we went back again, me, my dad, and a buddy, and my dad and friend, they couldn't make it to the top. It was my friend's first time climbing a mountain, so it was a pretty tough one for him. I'm sure. I mean, I not judging his physical abilities, of course, but yeah, I ended up getting to the top, and the weather switched on us again, and it was starting to rain and thunder. But I was like, screw it, I'm so far this time. I'm almost there, and I made it. That was definitely a great moment because it's a tough mountain. It's really steep. And there's one part where the trail practically stops existing, and you're climbing over just all this degraded rock, and it's kind of a terrible climb, but it's super satisfying once you finish it.
A lot of people have said that they found the navigation difficult, specifically just finding where it starts.
Yeah, the road to it's really bad. So if anyone listening this plans on going to Nevada, do not take a car because you will not get up there. It's like the road is horrible. It's horrible. The scenes, they're amazing. It's very scenic. So 10 out of 10 for me.
All right. And April, how about you?
Personally, I thought Mount Elbert in Colorado, it was very hard, but
Sure.
it was so beautiful. It was gorgeous.
Guy, was your favorite Black Elk Peak?
Yeah, but yeah, Black Elk Peak would be my favorite, and probably Florida would be my second one.
I've never heard that. I've never
Well, no,
heard
I'm
anyone say
Yeah,
that.
I didn't expect that
I'm
either.
being facetious on that. Florida,
Okay.
the hardest thing about the Florida high point is finding it.
And now I have heard that. Yeah.
I remember when we were looking for it, when we found it, Santi said, "Well, the trees are higher than the high point. Shouldn't the trees be the high point?" I said, "No, it
Oh,
doesn't work that way. We're going by the earth here."
I swear, you'd look over at like a hill in the distance, if you even want to call it a hill, and it looked way taller than where we were standing. I mean, that place, I don't know. I think someone needs to recheck it.
do you guys have any stories about high points that didn't go according to plan?
Well, going back on the Nevada, I've tried to climb that one 3 times and never made it to the top. And the first time, as Santi said, we got caught in that electrical storm. The second time, Honey and I tried to climb it, and there was about 5 feet of snow on it, so we never did get to where you start.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last time, Santi and his friend and I tried it, and his friend got sick at about 12,000 feet. He got
Yeah.
altitude sickness. And I stayed there with him till he got better. But I'll tell you what, I was pretty expended. So, and I had trained for that one. I thought I would be okay on that one. And the other one that I didn't
Mount Whitney.
Eagle Mountain in Minnesota, that was brutal. Wasn't so
Mhm.
hard climbing it. It's just the mosquitoes. Uh, they were unbelievable.
Terrible.
Yeah.
I had the kids, Santi and Abril. I had them covered up pretty good, but I just had on a short sleeve T-shirt, and you could at any time you could look at my arm and it was just covered with mosquitoes, and there was blood dripping off my arm, and it was from me killing the mosquitoes. So I don't know what they had been. I don't know what they had been eating on before me, but
Oh,
I mean, it took weeks for me to heal up. There was just big sores come on my arms. Uh, f-
what
uh,
season did you guys go to Eagle Mountain?
I was smack in the
What
middle of summer, I'm
season?
pretty sure, right?
Mm.
we always did these mountains in probably late June or July.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I was pretty covered, and I had two hoodies on, I think, and I gave one of them to Santi, and surprisingly, the mosquitoes didn't eat me up that bad. But there are a lot of them. But they
Yeah.
were tearing Santi apart.
Yeah, I
So
legitimately that was one of the few times an insects made me want to cry. Like genuinely, I hated that first part of the hike.
As long as you were in the sunshine, you didn't see very many mosquitoes, if any. But the minute you went in the shade, they were there.
yeah.
Oh, Mount Whitney.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mount Whitney, we didn't make it up that one.
We got we
that
got
one.
to we got to the 99 switchbacks,
Mm-hmm.
and it started again. It started lightning, raining again. So,
Was it
and we
another
didn't have a
electric
2 day
storm?
pass. We only had a 1 day pass on it. So
Oh, okay.
we had to come back down on that one.
Yeah, that I specifically remember that one because I wasn't gonna go mountain climbing with them. We were with a big group again, and I was just done with it. We were climbing so many mountains, and I was just tired of it. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't like
Yeah.
mountain climbing in the past. Now I do. I enjoyed so much, but in the
Mhm.
past I hated it. And
Well,
well, I had to. I was getting ready to go to sleep. It was like 10 p.m. and they were all gonna wake up. I think at midnight to start the climb.
Yeah.
And my mom called me, and she was just begging me to go with my sister because she wanted me to protect her and all that. Even though the three other people going, weren't enough. So I was like, fine. So I slept 2 hours, and yeah, we start this climb, and the whole time I just want to. I probably one of the few times I've been just super exhausted to the point where I could fall asleep standing up,
Mhm.
and yeah, we made it so far, and then someone that was with us got altitude sickness, and yeah, that was pretty tough. I don't think we made it to the switchbacks, did we?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
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 did.
we got to the
We did.
switchbacks. We
Yeah.
just it was raining and lightning, and we didn't go on.
Yeah, we stopped about every 100 feet.
Oh,
Like
wow.
every couple switchbacks, we'd stop, take a break, another couple
Yeah,
switchbacks,
100 feet,
stop.
100 feet through the trail, not in altitude.
Oh
Of
yeah, no, no,
course.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd be moving if that was the case.
Now, what about what are some of your favorite peaks along the East Coast or out east?
Well, I'd say my favorite one would be Mount Rogers in Virginia.
Everyone says that.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. The three of us were together on that one, and you know what? You're also on the Appalachian, however you pronounce it, trail.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I had I had given my daughter a bag of apples, and as we were going to the top of that mountain, or to the summit, we in the distance we saw what looked like these little dogs, and as we got closer, it turned out to be little horses,
Yeah.
and of
Oh
course
yeah.
they had learned the way of the tourist. So anyway, when we finally got to the summit, I told Abril, I said, give us all an apple, and she had one apple. I said, "What'd you do with the apples?" She had fed them to the horses.
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
forgot about the miniature horses. That's right. That was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a thing about horses when I was younger.
Abril and I did Vermont, and we did Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Vermont, and I think New Hampshire is Washington, Mount Washington.
Yeah, New Hampshire's Mount
Yeah,
Washington.
that is a beautiful mountain. That really
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
We did those while Santi was back in Arkansas.
And then, Santi, before I hit record, you were talking about Humphreys Peak. Now, I know you said on Eagle Mountain you experienced a lot of mosquitoes. Can you talk about the flies that you encountered in Arizona?
Yes.
You just don't have luck with these
This
insects.
is no. This was once again. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but yeah, we're climbing Humphreys Peak, and the end portion's really steep. You're already tired, and you get to the top, and you just think you've made it. Like, heck yeah, I can chill out now. No, when we got to the top, there was I want to give I'm trying to give a genuine estimate, maybe at the minimum 100,000 flies, at the minimum, the absolute minimum. It could have been millions. I don't know. It was just like a black cloud, and you were just swarmed with flies. And this is on the peak, the tallest point in the mountain, where it's the coldest, and there's flies here. And yeah, you're just after you're all pooped out and expunged all your energy, you just want to relax, but you just get swarmed with flies. They start swarming you. They land on you, especially when you're trying to eat. They're trying to get in your food. It was that, yeah, it was the worst peak I climbed. Like, the views were beautiful, but it was the one mountain where I got on it and I immediately thought about turning around. Like, I was just done. No way.
Wow.
It's indescribable. I've never seen anything like that. Like, I've never seen so many flies in one place in my life.
What are some of your favorite West Coast peaks?
West Coast, really, Nevada's about as far as we've been on the West Coast. We hadn't done anything in the Northwest.
Oh,
I
okay.
liked. It's not exactly on the West Coast, but I enjoyed New Mexico.
Me too.
Oh
That is
yeah, that's
one of my
right.
favorites.
When we were coming down that, it still had some snow on it. I watched Santi slide down that on the snow head first, and I told him, I said, "You're crazy to do that. If there's a rock there, you're not going to be coming home with us."
Jeez.
But he made it all right.
Now, can you talk about some of your international high points? Which ones have you done?
So, we have done Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and then me and my dad have done Mount Toubkal in Morocco.
Yeah. Now, before we talk about Kilimanjaro, can you talk about the Moroccan high point, which I also think is the West African high point as well? I might be wrong.
It's actually the highest point in northern Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's right.
And I guess it would be west too, but uh, it's called the highest in northern Africa.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, what brought you to Morocco, and then what made you decide to climb that peak?
well, that might have been a second thought. I always wanted to see Casablanca. I had been to Morocco a couple of times before, but I never had been to Casablanca. So,
Mhm.
and Abril was ragging me. She said, "We've never traveled international, Annie." I said, "You've traveled international all the time. You've been to the Caribbean with your mother. You've been to Argentina. We've been to Mexico." But anyway, to to get her to stop, I said, "Why don't we just go to Morocco?" And so we flew into Casablanca, and about a day, or I don't know how many, 2 or 3 days later, how long was it? I had contacted a guide, and he met us in Marrakech. Marrakech, is that?
Marrakech.
Mhm.
So from there, we went to a little village in the mountains called Emlil, and so from there, as a day or two later, we started climbing. It was about a 10-mile climb to get to the sanctuary. And then the next morning, seemed like it was about a 4 or 5 mile climb. He got us up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and at 4 o'clock we did the final 4 or 5 miles up the mountain, and then came back down and back to the hotel where we started. All said and done, it was about a 32-mile round trip in a day and a half.
Wow. Now that peak is just over 13,000 feet, correct?
I think it's 13,640
Yeah.
something feet, something like that.
And what is the terrain like?
It was kind of going up it. It seemed like the ground, and that morning it was kind of like, it was kind of like damp. You could walk up it pretty easy. Oh, well, not easy, but you could get up it with if you had hiking poles. Coming down it, we came back down about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun was out. It was about 80 degrees, and this ground had totally dried out. I fell 12 times coming down that mountain.
Yeah, it's like a rock slide. You
It's
just couldn't
just,
come down without falling.
I mean, it was brutal coming down it. I lost the skin off my left knee and lost 3 toenails.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I lost big toenails, both of the big toenails and a small one. And I'll tell you
Wow.
what, it was painful.
Were there other people climbing with you guys?
Yeah,
Or were there other
we
people on the trail?
there were some Moroccans, weren't there?
Yeah, there were people from all over the world. I think I met a woman from, I want to say France.
Where was she from? Spain? No, I don't remember where she.
I don't remember.
Yeah, there were.
Somewhere
There
in
was
Europe.
only. We were the only ones in our group. We had our own guide, but there was another guide that was leading. I know two of them were Moroccans, and there were some other people that was international. I'm not sure where they were from.
There was one guy from the U.S. who
Yeah, there was a
went
guy.
up there and just ran right back
Yeah,
down.
that guy was in good shape. He almost ran up the mountain and ran back down it. He just ran up there and got a picture and said bye, and he was gone. That mountain has what's known as, or has what's called super prominence,
Yeah.
and it was every bit of it. It was just it's as tough a mountain as I've ever been on.
For me, the hardest day was the first day just because it was so hot. It was so hot.
It really was. It got up probably 85 degrees, maybe even hotter. It was not easy. To me, it's just like just a big rock, and I guess I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it was probably some kind of volcanic rock. I honestly I don't know, but it was to me it was harder getting off of it. That second part, it was harder getting off of it than it was getting up it. I didn't think I was ever going to get down that mountain. I really didn't.
So did you feel any of the altitude, or was the difficulty really just in the terrain?
I think the difficulty was in the terrain. I didn't feel much altitude.
The difficulty was, in all the mountains we've climbed, and the kids can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember us ever getting sick on one.
I got kind of sick on Kilimanjaro.
The guide told Abril and I that it was a tougher mountain than Kilimanjaro. And, it's kind of hard to compare them, being it takes 6 days to get up one and about a day and a half to get up one and get back down.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to choose between the two mountains again, I would choose Kilimanjaro.
Wow. Well, that's a good segue into that. Now, what year did you what year did you guys summit Kilimanjaro?
We did Kilimanjaro in 23, and we did Toubkal in 21.
What route did you do on Kilimanjaro?
We did the Machami route.
And how many days was that?
6 days.
Okay. Did you feel like that was enough, or did you want more time?
Well,
I think it was enough.
I think it was enough too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I could have used another day or two, but when I was I don't know if you know John and Kathy Mitchler.
Yes.
They have a travel agency, and she's the one that took care of the guide for us. And John said, "You don't need that much time." I said, "Well, John, it really wouldn't hurt me to rest an extra day or two." But anyway, we didn't get it. When I looked at it, it was just 6 days. So
Yeah. Did you combine it with a safari?
we did.
Oh
We
yeah.
did. We did
Yeah.
a. We I had always wanted to see the Serengeti, so the kids always wanted to see wild animals, so it worked out good for us.
Wow. Now, what was your favorite part of Kilimanjaro?
Uh,
Definitely for me, I would say like the overall experience, not necessarily the climbing. The climb was a bonus. It's just being around so many different nationalities, and as well as with Tanzanians, they're
Yeah.
really interesting people. They're super cool. So it was I definitely that for me.
For
Wow.
me, they had this little dancing circle the night before we summited.
Hmm.
Everyone was singing and dancing, and that was just a lot of fun for me. Like we're all above the clouds and just all having a good time.
Wow. Oh, that is really cool. Was it difficult for you at all closer to the summit?
Summit
Yeah, the
day
summit.
had to have been the hardest day for me.
Yeah, for sure.
which
Because
day?
Summit day.
that's also the if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's the longest day because you climb 7 straight hours. It's the steepest part of the mountain, and you take, if I'm not mistaken, the least amount of breaks. At least we did,
Hmm.
and it's pretty freaking cold.
Yeah, it is freezing.
Especially when it's all dark, so the sun's not out, and oh yeah, I had to wear a jacket, a hoodie, I think
Yeah, we
another
had a lot of
hoodie.
layers.
Yeah, we were
Well,
layered up. I'm the type of person that has to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and when I would step out of that tent,
It's
oh
freezing.
my gosh, it is freezing.
I was sleeping in like the clothes I would hike in, like summit in. I was wearing that many layers to sleep at night.
well, it could
Wow.
have been. It could have been a lot worse. I Fortunately I had the good fortune of working in Africa years before in the Congo, which was on about the same parallel as
Okay.
Tanzania, as Kilimanjaro. So I knew that when we got into June, we was going to be going into the dry season, which in the dry season, it gets colder, but we were in the first part of it. So I figured there probably wouldn't be any rain and we wouldn't be in 80-degree temperatures. And as it worked out, I don't think we ever got rained on, did we? Did we ever
Mm,
get rained on?
No, we didn't.
Uh,
no, we didn't.
so
Yeah, we lucked out.
But
Wow.
I stay in touch with that guide over there. He sent me some pictures here of January, which it should be summertime there. It was covered in snow right now. I mean, so
Wow.
it is definitely cold on it now. And he said it was cold.
So, what part about it made it your favorite?
The people that we met climbing that mountain. I'm a sucker for just meeting people of all different cultures,
Hmm.
and like that part made it amazing. And then also you're in different, I guess the word wouldn't be habitats. Like you
Like
start in the
Environments.
environments. Yeah. You start in the jungle, then there's snow once you make it to the top. Like you're in a different environment about, I'd say, like every 2 days almost.
wow.
Where you're going through different temperate zones, I guess
Yeah.
would be the
Hmm.
word.
Well, to
So,
kind
but
of
I mean, we had never climbed above probably 14,000 feet. And
Hmm.
to to go to 19,320 or 30 feet, it was something. But I can tell you this: the guides moved extremely. As far as climbing, they climbed extremely slow, and it really makes a difference when you do it that way. If you're in great shape and young and all that, yeah, you may be able to run up it. I actually read once where some Tanzanian actually had in one day had gone to the top,
Oh my gosh.
but that wasn't us.
yeah,
To
another
me,
cool thing was
the hardest
oh,
day
go
of
ahead,
that
Dad.
climb for me was the third day. Uh, when we got to the camp that evening, I'll tell you what. I really wondered if I was going to make it on to the top, and we was halfway. So I thought I don't want to go back on through what we just came through, and and I'm not sure I can get to the top. But I went to bed that night, and I didn't even eat dinner, nothing. I went to bed. But the next morning, I woke up and I felt good. We took off, and it went well.
I guess really for anyone listening, including you, if you when you plan on going,
Mhm.
going back to what I said earlier about all the cultures, on the mountain we met mostly French people, but there's people from Germany, Holland, Spain, a lot of Europeans,
Mhm.
Americans. I'd say it kind of made up a good size, but there wasn't a lot,
Mhm.
not as many as I was expecting, but yeah, and yeah, the Tanzanians, our guides and the porters. Those are pretty much the people that carry all your stuff. Those people are just a bunch of respect to them because I mean, first, yeah, the
Yeah.
guides they're making sure no one's getting altitude sickness. You're going at a steady pace,
Mhm.
and as my dad said, you're moving pretty slow, but the slower you move, the less breaks you're taking, and you end up traveling a pretty lengthy distance. But the porters, like these guys were carrying any extra things we had. They're carrying their stuff. They're carrying the camp equipment, our tents, their tents. They're
Kitchen
cooking the kitchen,
appliances.
Wow.
food, toilet, uh, everything. And these guys would leave like 2 hours before you or at the same time as you, and they would just fly past you while they're carrying all this stuff, and some of them would just balance it on their shoulders or on their head without even holding it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And
It,
shout out to them as well, because on the fifth day, I think, the day before we climbed the peak, there wasn't any access to water that or any source of water that was near us. They had to
Oh,
climb down from where we climbed up, which was like maybe an hour and a half in between this valley to this other peak. They would climb down it, get a big bucket of water, and bring it all the way back up. So
wow.
yeah, they took really good care of you on the mountain. It was impressive, and all the logistical things that go into that, I can't even imagine. Especially with in Tanzania, they're not as developed as a country like the United States, where we have all this technology and whatnot. I mean, you were seeing humans work with what they had, and it was pretty cool.
Going back on there, there was four of us, and supporting us was the guide and the assistant guide and the porters and the cooks and the servers and these people. I think there were like 16 or 17 of them.
Wow.
So, and we, as I say, we were not with any other group. I just when I bought the tour or the guide service, I didn't. I just wanted it to be us. Uh,
Yeah.
so that was everything that come with it. There's about 16 or 17 people. And
Mhm.
the thing anybody that's listening wants to realize, when you get to the end of when you get back to the hotel, you obviously, if you're a good person, you tip these people. So you just need to remember you're tipping. In our case, we was tipping 16 or 17 people.
Wow. Wow, that's a
I
lot.
remember the guide, when I told him, I said, I have no idea what to tip you guys. So he said, why don't you just tip with your heart? I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a real big heart. Why don't we tip with your heart? And so I said, you just tell me, how much do you want? And he told me, and I said, it's done. What about the assistant guide? The guide is the one that determines for everybody. So
Okay.
we just went down the list till we got to the servers, and I just handed him the money when it was all said and done.
How was the food?
the food's
Oh, it was
amazing.
wow,
Man,
yeah.
yeah, no lie. And
Yeah,
you
they'd
be,
bring it out to you in a tent. Like
Yeah,
they'd set up
we have a server.
uh,
oh
just to
yeah,
make
they would.
sure I got this or everyone understands. When I was mentioning tents earlier, it's your tent, anyone else in your group, their tent, and a tent for you to set a table and eat. Like sheltered
Mhm.
from any of the any weather and whatnot. And yeah, they'd cook it up and they just serve it right to you. like you were at a restaurant, but on a mountain.
Wow.
I mean, the food was absolutely. I mean, it was just excellent, and they had you had coffee, you had tea, you had.
I had hot chocolate.
I don't remember us having any soft drinks, but we had these fruit juices. They were exotic. I'm not
Oh
sure what they
yeah,
were,
Yeah.
but
tasty.
it was the food. No complaints on that at all.
None.
Wow.
Yeah, breakfast, lunch, dinner,
I
all
think
of
their
it.
French fries are better than ours.
So then you get off the mountain, you go through the extensive tipping process. Can you talk about the Serengeti?
Where I don't even know where you start there. I mean, it's you go from being in a really mountainous region to just completely flat. Like you can see until to the horizon, and yeah, just I mean, all the wildlife. It's right there. You don't have to go searching for it in these niche little areas and whatnot. I mean, it's everywhere. Just
Wow.
everywhere. Yeah, it was super. I mean, I took on the safari. I'm not a photographer. I might take 20 pictures in a year, but on that safari, I took over I think like 800 or something. It was
Oh
I
my
just couldn't
gosh.
stop. Yeah.
The animals are one thing. You see all these animals, and gosh, we saw herds of this wildebeest, and the kids saw a pride of lions take down a zebra,
Whoa.
and
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw that from the beginning of the hunt all the way till the end, and I promise you, watching that on the internet and watching it with your own eyes is two different experiences.
Very.
For me, it changed my perspective on cats completely. Like, I do not trust them. That's all I'm gonna say.
I could not eat after watching that.
the,
Wow.
the part that I really liked is we visited one of these Maasai villages, and that was
Oh,
something
Yeah,
that
that
was
was
something to
cool.
see. I was watching the kids negotiate on buying items with the chief, and after we finished, I understood why the guy was the chief. He was a very good negotiator.
What did you guys buy?
I got a talking stick
So
and
yeah, I got a talking stick.
and a machete. Well, it's this it's like it's built like a machete. I'm not too sure exactly what they called it, but it's made out of I think iron, and they attach a hilt to it that's wrapped in some kind of skin, and then the sheath that goes in it is made out of cow skin or cow leather.
Okay.
So it's and the chief actually gifted me. I don't even know why, but he gifted me a. I guess it's something you could say you could put your keys in and whatnot, but it was like a rock or kind of like a shell. It felt like a shell, but it wasn't a shell. But it was engraved with like a rhinoceros and a giraffe, and yeah, he gave it to me for free just cause. So
Cool.
that was another cool thing.
The village is surrounded seemed like by wood or brush or something, and they had a little schoolhouse in there where they taught their own kids. We got to watch them teach the kids a little bit, so it was it was interesting.
And these are people that live without technology, right on the
Yeah.
Serengeti.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most advanced form of technology they had was a tarp to put on some of the roofs of their houses. And
Wow.
I take that back. The chief had a phone to contact the government in case a lion or something like that were to attack their village, because their cows, excuse me. They're not allowed to kill lions from what they told us. They have to call in the government, and then they'll come and tranquilize the lions.
Wow.
Yeah, but their houses, even their schoolhouse, they were made of sticks and mud.
And cow poop.
And yeah.
Yeah.
They were very, very nice people. You couldn't
Yeah,
you couldn't
super
ask for
nice.
better people.
Did you come back from that trip to Tanzania different?
No,
Yeah, I did.
Mhm.
I don't
mean,
think he heard the question.
oh no. I heard the question. I didn't understand it. I thought you were talking about airlines. You were not talking about that.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I mean, so our half our family's from Argentina. And we've gone we go to Argentina almost every year, and it's it's not really developed like the United States. It's pretty poor, and I always kind of thought like, like it really can't get much worse than this. But you go to Tanzania, and you realize like, I mean, just to summarize it, people cut grass there with machetes. Like they're not even using lawnmowers or anything
Yeah.
over there. So for me, like the moment I got there, I realized, like how good I actually have it, and it's pretty freaking good. It's not bad at all. So
Hmm.
but another thing too I noticed was, even though they didn't have all the stuff that we have, I felt like their sense of community was really, really strong.
Absolutely.
Uh, yeah, they were. I mean, the roads were. I mean, the city in general, the markets, it was just filled and packed with people. You would pass people on the roads that may have not been doing anything, and they were just with loads of other people. You'd have all these guys riding their motorcycles as a group together, just sitting on the side. Just no one's on their phones or anything. They're all just talking, enjoying each other's company, and
Hmm.
everyone was really nice, super nice. No one was mean, or no one just kind of dirty glances or anything like that, and like everyone was just incredibly nice. So,
Wow.
and,
And
and really curious too.
they all see the bright side of things. Like they always said Hakuna Matata whenever we went
Hakuna
up the
Matata,
mountain.
yeah,
Yeah.
no worries. They
Just there
they
was always a bright side no matter what. They did not see
yeah,
the negative.
they live and
Wow.
die by that for sure.
But I met
Wow.
this man on the mountain. He was from Tanzania, and he was another guide for another company. And he told me that he actually felt bad for American kids because they don't have a sense of community. Like they're always on their phones and all of this. And I was like, yeah, that changed my
He's not
perspective
wrong.
a lot. Yeah.
He's not wrong.
Like he didn't see anything wrong with how Africa. He was like, we have it great here, and that just like showed me like that's something different that I came back with was appreciate what you have, not what you don't.
How old are you guys, Santi and Abril?
I'm 23.
I am 19.
So that was really good exposure to have at your ages.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That
absolutely.
was. I felt like I was just in the jungle. Like it was nothing seemed totally organized or anything, and that's not a bad thing. Like it was fun. It was a wild experience.
It's definitely something a lot of people our age don't experience, or even people like older than
Older,
us that
yeah,
they may not
absolutely.
get to experience either.
How has the outdoors and high pointing enriched your life?
I guess kind of like what we just talked about with Tanzania, and how they're not surrounded by all the things we have. I feel like with all the information we're surrounded by, it can make the world feel pretty small and a lot worse than it actually is.
Hmm.
And high pointing for me kind of does the opposite. When or just the outdoors in general, but like when I climb these mountains, and I finally summit it and I'm at the peak, I really get a sense of how small I am, and how like
Mhm.
big and great the world is, and how it just has an incredible amount to offer. And I think sometimes we get absorbed in our own lives to really see what's going on around us. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
For me, the outdoors, something that I've had, I think, since I was about 13. I've always had anxiety. I've had to take meds for it and everything. And the outdoors, they gave me a sense of grounding, like a sense of
Hmm.
peace. So going climbing and just being in nature, I have this sense of calmness, and it also gives me a goal. Like I like having a goal of climbing a mountain and finishing,
Yeah.
and just a sense of like just something that I know I can do and I can finish, and I come down and I feel great about it. But yeah, it's definitely giving me a grounding tool in life.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And Guy, how about you?
Well, I've traveled a lot in my life. I've been in 39 different countries and worked and lived in about seven or eight. I spent 13 years out of the States. I've met a lot of people, but what I come to realize is people, you know, are pretty much the same everywhere. Now there's a few cultural differences. There's maybe a few different traditions or whatever, but people are pretty much the same everywhere. What people want to see, they want to see honesty, they want to see respect, and they want to be appreciated. And if you can remember to always do that, I think you can go anywhere in this world and have a good time. I've always told young people, you know, anytime you have the chance to travel or mountain climb, whatever it might be, do it because you're never guaranteed tomorrow. And you may say, well, I'm going to wait until I retire. But when you retire, you may not be in good health or it could be something else. So the time to see it is when you're young. You will enjoy it more and you'll have the memories later on.
You're absolutely right. And there are some people that don't have the means to travel, but we all have a high point wherever we live. And okay, maybe if you live in Alaska, the high point might be, logistically challenging and physically challenging. But for the majority of us, there's something that you can do tomorrow. There's a park that you can visit. There's a trail you can go on. You can get started.
You really can. There's all kinds of things out there. It's as I say, just the mountain climbing part introduced me or me and the kids to so many other things. I mean, when we were in Minnesota, the good part that came out of Eagle Mountain is we I told them about a place I had been when I was working as an engineer. It was over in North Dakota, so we went over there, and it was the International Peace Garden. So while we were there, Abril noticed that they had an international music camp there. So she ended up spending 3 summers up there. So
Wow.
it just there's always a door opening somewhere on something new to do. So as I say, it's to me it's been a life changing experience.
And the question that I like to close with is really for the listeners. Do you have any outdoor adventure books, documentaries, or podcasts that you would like to recommend to listeners?
One I would recommend is The Alpinist.
Yes, that's a great one.
That is insane. That person, what was his name? I think
Marc-Andre Leclerc.
Yeah, that was the French was catching me up. It's insane that someone like that and multiple other people like that exist. And
yeah,
it really, I mean, you think these hikes, you go on these mountains are tough, and then you see what this guy does. It's ridiculous.
You're right.
It's just a whole nother level.
You're right. Yeah. What about Abril and Guy? Do you guys have any recommendations?
I have this book. It's by this, I guess, brand or organization. It's called Lonely Planet,
Yeah.
and they have different books for like Europe or like different places to go. And I believe they have one for mountains as well. And it goes so much in depth about, best places to stay whenever you're there, or where to buy tickets. Like, it's a very good info book.
Yeah, I used to consult those too.
You know what I always did, especially when the kids were younger, I would just get on the internet and I would thoroughly research, where we were going, what was there, what mountains, that we could climb. I never did. I always tried to pick places that were interesting that I didn't think was dangerous. What I always worried about when we were climbing mountains is running on to the wrong kind of animals. So I never did take them to like Montana or Wyoming because I figured it was probably there was, I think those are 2 or 3 day climbs, and I was always worried about running into grizzlies. And so it's good always thoroughly research where you're going and and how long it's going to take you, what your prominence is on the mountain, and how long it's going to take you to get up, get back down, and always notify somebody when you're climbing or anywhere you're going. So if you don't show up in a specified time, they know to notify the authorities to look for you.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, this has been fun. I love to do podcasts with families. And, I've had fathers and sons, I've had father, daughter, I've had 3 generations on before. And I really love this stuff. I want to thank all of you for your time and for your stories. This has been really, really interesting, especially your international high points. So thank you for everything.
Yes, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
having us.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be a part of it.
certainly.
Thanks for listening to the Trail Talk High Pointing Podcast. Tune in every Wednesday on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube for new episodes. For more information on the High Pointers Club, visit highpointers.org. And if you'd like to be on the show, please send me an email at 50stateshighpointingpodcast@gmail.com. That's 50 states highpointingpodcast@gmail.com.